When it comes to planning a retreat, there's ways to get it to go from average to incredibly transformative. Welcome to Retreat Boss, where we speak about inspired travel for fun, transformation, and profit. Guest experts will give you their tips and tricks on creating the most impactful retreats, both for you and your clients. Whether you want a meditative getaway, a wellness trip, or a business escapade, we provide you with the best advice in organizing and hosting a tremendous event. Join Catherine Kontos as she talks with fellow experts about creating exclusive and successful retreats. Dive deep into the most unique activities, the best destinations to visit, and the most uplifting trips out there that you can discover. Here is your host, Catherine Kontos. Joe Fagan is the Director of Strategic Partnerships for Be Yogi, an affiliate of Arthur J. Gallagher and an affiliate partner with Retreat Boss. Joe, welcome to the Retreat Boss, the podcast.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, and we have been in collaboration for a little while now in reference to retreats and insurance, and we discovered you by chance, of course, you know, with all the great social media that you have. And we knew right away that, you know, these are professionals. These are the type of people we want our retreat leaders to work with. And we contacted you, and it's been a great relationship since. So I'm so happy to have you here on the show. I'd like the listeners today to know a little bit more about you and about Be Yogi, you know, just a little, like, how did it become what it is today?
Sure. Well, thank you again. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to your listeners and just giving us a forum to be able to talk about what we find so important and what we love to do. And also, of course, thank you for the wonderful partnership. So, you know, me personally, I've been with this organization I started back early on in 2010 when we first launched into the liability insurance business. And what I mean is our company, we've been in the health and wellness space for a little over 30 years. In fact, we own a couple of publications. We own Massage Magazine and Chiropractic Economics magazine. And then what we found early on in the 2000s was a very underserved market offering liability insurance directly to the independent health and wellness practitioner. So we built a program, but what we really did that was somewhat remarkable was we kind of changed the way insurance was purchased. You know, we built a technology which everyone uses now. But before that, if you wanted to buy liability insurance as a yoga instructor, as a massage therapist, you'd have to go to a local agent, fill out a lengthy paper application. It would take them a couple of weeks in general to get it underwritten, and they would charge you several $100s. And nowadays, you can go right online. It's almost like going to Amazon and buying a widget. It can take literally 3 minutes or less. You don't have to talk to a human, and you could be covered with millions of dollars worth of coverage for, you know, under $200. So it was really that, you know, the timing on the market and the technology we built really fueled our success. But the final piece of the puzzle, which has really helped us out, is forming partnerships, wonderful partnerships with companies like yours to help for us to get exposure to the proper markets that we're serving, and then also on the flip side to help in some cases negotiate discounts or member benefits for our customers, which they benefit greatly from.
That's amazing. And from what I understand, from what everything that we've spoken about in previous discussions, is you do deal with American only practitioners, correct? Or professionals?
Well, our policy is bound to a country code, like policies are. So, you know, every country has a different laws and regulations around insurance and other things. So it's really hard to get a policy that travels across country code. So like most policies, ours is for the work that's within the United States. Now it'll follow the instructor or the practitioner anywhere within the United States as long as they're, you know, practicing.
So they are not covered if they leave the US. Is that correct? If they do a retreat or something, some job, I don't know, in the UK, would that cover them or not?
Under our current policy, no. But what we recommend if somebody is going to do a retreat is bring our policy to your local agent. Let them know. Let them take a look at what you're covered for, and have them write up something that'll kind of mirror that coverage overseas. And of course, there's also, you know, various companies that offer specific travel insurance that, you know, it's always worth looking into as well.
So what does independent liability insurance mean exactly? in this scenario, let's say, you know, whoever it may be, we'll stick with to yoga instructors just because it's just easier.
Sure. So when I say when I'm using the term, liability insurance, of course, is insurance that covers typically the negligence of the yoga instructor. But we focus on the independent contractor. And what I really mean by that is that if let's say you're a business owner and you have W-2 employees, there's in most cases, states regulations will require you to have some additional insurances, and you're probably going to need to buy a business owner's policy, which is a lot more costly and requires some additional things, maybe workman's comp, business interruption, and things of that nature. If you are, however, a single business owner or a independent contractor, in most cases, our program will cover all of the liability you might need to run your business. And I say might because there's always extenuating circumstances. So I always caution people to make sure you're asking the right questions and make sure this policy works for you. But in general, so our program kind of covers everything that a business owner, a single entity would need. And what I mean by that is we include professional liability, which is what covers them in case of a negligence, or if the person that they're instructing gets hurt and it's due to the negligence of the instructor, and that's covered in our case up to $2 million per occurrence, $3 million per year. We also cover that general liability, which is a big one too. That's what a lot of people call the slip and fall insurance. Mm-hmm. So if there's water on the floor, they slip and fall, they hit their head. That's specifically covered under general liability. We cover that too, $2 million per occurrence, $3 million aggregate. Ours includes a product liability. So if any products are used in the scope of a session that causes an injury or burn or what have you, that's covered up to $2 million. Ours includes $100,000 of rental damage. And that became important too, because we found that if a yoga instructor might be signing a lease, and in most lease agreements, there is some requirement for liability insurance in case the place is damaged. Ours includes $100,000 of that coverage. And then we also include, and this is a little unique to ours, $1,000 of stolen or damaged equipment insurance, as well as $25,000 in identity theft. And we added those because we realized that people that were getting certified in our industry started to become susceptible to cyber attacks. So it's been a meaningful addition to our program.
That's amazing. I want to give you some specific examples and tell me how and if they are covered in this case. So I'm a retreat leader. Okay. I'm offering a retreat within the United States, but I'm also a yogapreneur or a yoga teacher. Does it cover me for the other aspects, like the planning aspects, like the, whatever else with the other suppliers? Am I covered in that case, or is it really what you just mentioned and, with the guests specifically?
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer because it's fairly broad and fairly general. Okay. The best answer that I can give you that our program is designed to cover the practice of yoga instruction. I say that, though, there is a kind of broad understanding that anything involved within the practice of yoga instruction would be covered under our program. So, for instance, if you are, actually, this is not a very good example because we now cover mindful meditation. But at one time, we didn't cover only mindful meditation. But if it was a part of a yoga instruction practice, if you were doing mindful meditation as a part of your yoga instruction, that would be covered. We did, by the way, add on now a specific coverage for mindful meditation. So if you are a mindful meditation practitioner, we do cover you there. But as long as it's under kind of the scope of practice. Now, what you talked about planning and such, that might fall a little bit outside of our coverage. And that's where you might want to talk to somebody specifically about insurance focused around retreats.
Okay. And what about in this next scenario? I'm a retreat planner or leader, whatever. I hire a yoga teacher or instructor for my retreat. As a retreat leader, should I require this person that I hired to have insurance? Well, would that be a good idea? Like, I think it would, but let's hear what you have to say.
It would, and I'm not saying that just because we are offer liability insurance for this space, but that's really, that's kind of why we're in business, is that there's that need. And to me, it's, especially if you're a business operator running a retreat, the risk falls on you. So if you hire a yoga instructor, and let's say that yoga instructor, something happens and that person gets hurt. Well, in most cases, if there's a suit filed, the suit's going to file, and they're potentially going to sue not only the yoga instructor, but the business operator that's running the retreat, or the business that's where it's being held. So in those cases, so what I recommend to retreat leaders, or even studio owners for that matter, if they hire a yoga instructor on as an independent contractor, is not only require them to carry liability insurance, but have them add your business or your retreat on as an additional insured. There's normally about in our space, about a $10 to $15 fee for that. We charge $10 typically. But what that does is it extends some of the liability of onto the instructor's policy before it would go to the retreat leader's policy. So if, let's say, they did hurt somebody and that person decided to sue the retreat leader and the yoga instructor, well, the yoga instructor's policy would be the first component that would cover both losses.
Okay, so what if they're hired as part of the retreat instead of as a contract? Is there a difference there? You know what I mean?
Well, if they were hired on as a W-2 employee,
right?
The reason I say so, by the way, the answer is there is a difference, and there are a lot of cases where we might be able to cover all of the needed insurance under that. But the reason I'm cautious in saying that is there's in many states, there's laws regulating what happens if you hire a W-2 employee.
Okay.
So as a business owner there, if you're hiring a W-2 employee, you're probably going to need a business owner's policy. Now, that business owner's policy is going to cover your business. It's going to cover the name on the door. It's probably going to cover some workman's comp. It's going to cover some additional things beyond what we do. But we still highly recommend that the instructor themselves would carry one of our programs, because number one, it's going to take, if a suit ever came in, number one, it's going to hit their policy before it would hit the business owner's policy. And in most cases, a business owner's policy would extend general liability coverage and not professional liability coverage. General liability, of course, is that slip and fall insurance. It's what most claims are. But it's the professional liability, the we call malpractice insurance, if you will, where if due to the instructor's negligence, they may have hurt somebody. Well, in most cases, a business owner's policy does not cover professional liability. So it is even recommended in that case as well. The caveat there is that the business owner, again, might need some additional insurances to satisfy state laws.
Okay. So there's a lot of different things people need to think about when they're offering retreats or any type of event that involves, and you don't only cover yoga instructors. I know you cover a lot of different other professionals as well. Can you just name them so people could be aware of it?
Absolutely. So we, in fact, the first business line we went into was liability insurance for massage therapists, and part of that's because we own Massage Magazine and we understood the market, and we saw the underserved market, and we saw the need there. So massage therapists under a brand called Massage Magazine Insurance Plus. Mm-hmm. We cover beauty professionals under a brand called Elite Beauty Society. And those beauty professionals, everything from hairstylists and makeup artists to estheticians and everything in between. We have a brand for fitness professionals called Insure Fitness Group. We now also offer coverage for physical therapists under My PT Insurance, occupational therapists under My OT Insurance. And we've also built a website called Career Shield Insurance, where we now offer liability insurance for speech language pathologists, audiologists, dietitians, and we are continuing to expand as we look into other markets.
Amazing. That's a big range of professionals. That's amazing. That's really good. I didn't even realize you had that many different coverages. Okay, so I like giving scenarios because I want people to really understand, like what factors are in place, what liabilities can be in place, and all of that very easily. So one of the next things I'd like to know, I have a contract covering everything. I have contracts with everybody, right? So including like if something happens to you, well, I'm not liable, sign on the paper, right? And I don't feel like I need insurance as a retreat leader, right? So this is my mentality, or a retreat leader's mentality, not mine. So what would you advise with this person? What would you tell them? Like, do they still need insurance? And if so, why?
That's a great question. It's one that we get all the time. And so what you're talking about is having all of your customers sign a waiver of liability, which is, by the way, it's a heavily recommended thing to do. We highly recommend you get a waiver of liability. And by the way, we also highly recommend you take your waiver of liability and run that by a general counsel to make sure that it is a strong waiver of liability. Because what that's going to do is that's going to keep from a lot of potential cases from actually getting filed and getting to to a claim status where you actually have to file a claim, which causes a lot of disruption and a lot of problems. But at the end of the day, a waiver of liability does not always hold up. If there is real negligence involved, a waiver of liability is pretty much going to be thrown out the door, and then you're going to really rely on that on the liability insurance to cover a claim if, and again, you can do everything right. You can make a mistake or something can happen. Somebody could trip and fall and hit their head. Again, while we recommend waivers, we definitely recommend you get them, you make sure they're tailored to your business and run by general counsel, but we highly recommend you also purchase insurance because they don't always hold up.
Okay, because I had like a lawyer right before you that I interviewed, and everybody agrees, like, get yourself covered in every way. Have the legal documentation, have insurance, but people try to avoid that cost. And really, the cost of your insurance is not a lot at all. And it covers them for a whole year, not only during a retreat. It covers them during their everyday client base. Is it online as well? So like, can they be covered, or should they be covered when they're doing online events?
I'm glad you asked. It's funny because we always covered not only live face-to-face instruction, we always covered live online instruction too. That was just a piece that we were kind of ahead of the game in offering coverage for, because we knew that there was a lot of yoga instructors at the time that were doing instruction online. Once the pandemic hit and a lot of businesses shifted their business to these online models, and in some cases were growing their revenue or finding at least a way to offset the loss and decline in revenue once the pandemic hit. So once that happened, we reached out to our underwriters and they allowed us to add coverage at no additional cost for even pre-recorded videos, and we're keeping that. So at this point, not only do we cover live face-to-face, not only do we cover live online, but we also, if you put a video out there and somebody gets hurt and they decide to sue you, that's also covered. An interesting point about that is most coverages that offer pre-recorded coverage, there's usually some type of restriction, whether it's like a certain software that needs to be used or like a gated entry, like a locked portal. We don't have any of those restrictions. So that's been very valuable to our customers.
That's good to know, because it has gone a lot online. A lot of people are doing both even now, hybrid, a bit of online, a bit in person. And again, people don't think about it. They're like, I'm online. What's the big deal? But it is, and you do have to be fully covered. What's next? What is there anything that people should think about beyond like their regular insurance that covers them professionally? Meaning like if they decide to, because you said it does cover anything that is within their practice, but what if they do an excursion of some sort that is not necessarily, again, we'll go back to yoga related. It's just something, maybe a social experience, just to meet everybody, and create some kind of bond or loyalty to the brand, or, just a perk that they're giving, maybe they're going to a restaurant. I don't know, just something. Or would that be covered if something should happen there? Or is that out of the, like it's not covered?
That would have to be looked at again, kind of case by case. It sounds kind of like from that example, though, that would potentially be outside of the scope of coverage. These policies you have to think about, there are, really relatively very inexpensive, considering the potential, the potential loss that could be incurred. So there is specific language on when and what is covered under it. It's, for the most part, really the kind of line in the sand is if you're instructing yoga, if you have started in a class, or you're instructing yoga, if you're doing the practice of yoga, our program is going to cover the things that occurred during that. If you're going out to dinner with friends or doing some type of social event that's not yoga related, at least our program wouldn't extend coverage to that event.
Look, it makes sense, in the end, that I just wanted to clarify, because some people, sometimes they don't read the small print, or they don't understand it necessarily, because there is a lot of legal jargon in there. And most people don't go to a lawyer to say, hey, is this insurance covering me on A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Like they won't do that. And so the best advice, I guess, would be, read your insurance policy and see what's covered and talk to an agent, right? Like, well, how can they really understand what they're being covered for? Because there's a lot of insurance out there, maybe some that are cheaper than yours, maybe that are more expensive than yours, maybe other ones that offer more, less. How does someone who goes out there, how do they make sure that, they are being covered for everything that they need, and stuff they may not even know about? There's things that people just don't know. What would your best advice is when looking for a company to get insured? with?
Yeah, great question. And the best thing I can advise is to just ask those questions. The first thing that I would do would be to kind of make a list of everything that I'm going to be doing in my practice. So, am I going to be practicing certain types of yoga? Maybe it's aerial yoga, maybe it's stand-up paddleboard yoga, and then list out what all of these different things are. And then when you're making the phone call to an insurance company, ask those questions. We have more than one call center fully staffed with licensed agents who are ready to take those questions and answer them, legally answer them with the education they've been provided through their licensure. And that's probably the big thing, is do an audit of what you're trying. And this is the same thing, by the way, when you're building a liability waiver too. When you're trying to create a waiver, is you need to do an audit of everything that goes on. You need to lay out what those risks are, and then lay out what those outcomes are, and put all of that into a waiver. You don't really have to do that when you're buying liability insurance, but that process should inform your questioning when you're going to buy liability insurance. Here's what I do. Do you cover what I do? And make sure that because not all programs are equal. I feel like we've created one that's broader than most to really help cover all of these things that we've found that yoga instructors are doing, within their scope of practice. But I'm sure, in fact, I know that there are certain things that are even outside of our scope of practice. So it's important you ask those questions.
Yeah, it needs to be customized to your business, right? You need to make sure that the insurance actually fits what you want to do with your practice. Is there anything that you guys are excited about that's coming out soon? Is there anything new, that you'd like to maybe tell the audience?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we realize that, the interesting thing about buying liability insurance is you're buying a product that you hope you never use, which is just a weird thing in general, I feel like. But it is, it's part of what this is. We're there to cover you for an event that you hope never occurs. But we do realize that it's, we want our customers to be able to use and interact with our programs and products more. So we go to great lengths to really build additional value into our program. So just like I mentioned, briefly earlier, we're constantly forming partnerships, negotiating discounts that benefit our customers. So whether it's with yoga mats or continuing education or retreats, things of that nature. So once you enroll into our program, you get access to this full suite of member benefits that our customers benefit from. And in most cases, more than outweigh the cost in general of the liability insurance. So if you use 2 or 3 of these discounts, probably kind of making up for the cost of the coverage anyway. One thing that did happen, again, right prior to the pandemic, our small business was acquired by Arthur J. Gallagher, who happens to be one of the largest insurance brokers in the world. And they have added tremendous value into what we do. They were able to take our economic scale and build out access to group rates on things like dental insurance and vision insurance and telemedicine. And even we have a concierge service that'll help our clients kind of walk through the ACA to find the best and lowest cost in health insurance options through the ACA. So, that's such a thing in our industry that, a lot of folks don't have access to because they may not work for a major employer. So again, we've kind of gone to great lengths to help fill those needs. And so we offer this more as almost like a membership package that's inclusive of liability insurance, employee benefits, member discounts, things of that nature. So I encourage anybody, go to our website, byogi.com, and really take a look at all these wonderful partnerships we formed and all the cool discounts and treats you get with it.
Yeah, and one of the discounts that we created together is a discount to take the Retreat Boss courses, which help them plan profitable retreats and vice versa. And, on our website as well, we offer that discount for anybody who wants to get onto the Yogi insurance plan. So yes, it's a great partnership. People can benefit from a lot of that. And, it's amazing that you'd have created this membership where they can benefit from all these discounts. And why not, right? And literally, I always say just the cost of what you're offering versus the discounts they'll get, it pays for itself. So thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you for being here today and explaining all the nuts and bolts of what's involved in insurance and what covers you and what you're not covered in. And I hope people do realize that, just to keep that, that safe space in their mind, something that they don't have to think about, if something does happen, or they don't need to worry about it. Once it's covered, it's covered. So thanks again for being here today. I'm looking forward to, lots of interesting back and forth with you guys. And I hope this podcast sheds light on a lot of different issues when it comes to the insurance world.
Oh, well, thank you. No, again, really appreciate the opportunity. And if you don't mind, I don't mind mentioning to the crowd, we did form a wonderful partnership. And through that partnership, even listeners of this or just folks that are customers of Retreat Boss in general do get a discount on our program. And the way to access that would just be going to www.beyogi.com/retreatboss. And by the way, I know I kept mentioning call and ask questions. So if you don't mind, I just want to, if you want to do that, by the way, if you go to that website, it'll tell you the phone number. But that number is 888-285-8691. So, please, we'd love to ask any, we're prepared to answer any questions that you have. And, we feel that it's very important to have somebody not only answer the phone, but to be friendly and to answer any questions that you have. So we're delighted to do so.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning all that, Joe. It's very important that they know where to go to, and I hope they do. So thanks again. And, until next time, I'm looking forward to speaking to you again.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Catherine.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Retreat Boss podcast. When it comes to achieving wellness and transformation, nothing is more effective and profound than a well-orchestrated retreat. Achieve huge revenue growth, one trip at a time. Want to learn more on expanding your business with retreats? Visit retreatboss.com, when profitable retreats are made easy. Be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show at retreatboss.com/podcast. Until next time, take care.